How's it going, guys? I've gotten a lot of questions on my stream lately about Awakened Sorc stuff after the reboot, so I figured I could just make kind of like a overview video of it all and try and go over the things that I've noticed that stuck out to me, the things that work, the things that feel kind of clunky, and just kind of go from there. Overall, Awakened Sorc feels like it's in a really good spot. PvE, PvP, you can do 1v1s, you can do large scale like you've always been able to do. You've got your iframes on demand, so not a whole lot has changed in terms of like how you can actually play the class. The biggest change is your damage output and how you how you pump out your damage now. Pre-awakening in PvP, aside from 1v1s, is really just used for catches. The damage compared to what you have on awakening now is just laughable, honestly. And with all the SAs that you have in awakening now, there's really no point in utilizing your pre-awakening kit unless you're just like in a 1v1 scenario and you're trying to clean something up, you know? So, I guess to start, I'll just cover sort of like the awakening skills and what has really changed. The biggest one for me is Soul Harvest. Shift Q, it has down attack, air attack, it floats, and it has a down smash along with a 5% casting speed buff regardless of whether or not you hit anything. So you could just, whether you're in the middle of a fight or you're pre-buffing, you just pop it and you cancel straight into an iframe and you've got your 5% cast speed buff for 10 seconds. The other skill that like you didn't used to use but now you can is Vile Plan. Oops, I accidentally unspec'd it, but Vile Plan kind of hits like a truck. It's really good for comboing in a 1v1 scenario. Obviously, in group fights, you're not going to utilize it as much unless you have an open window to do so because it's not protected. And in the current state of what we have on Sorc, why would you not just use your protected damage in group fights? PvE has gotten a lot more straightforward. On Awakening Sorc, violation spam has kind of died, and as long as you have reasonable AP for whatever spot you're grinding, you should kill everything before you even need violation or in one violation. The reason violation spam has died is because it loses a very significant amount of damage now when it's on cooldown, so you typically only want to utilize it once. The way I prep a pack is same as usual. Your Mark of Shadow, and then Stinger for your crit buff, Shadow Eruption, C-Swap, turn backslash, Grim. Then I use Soul Harvest for the cast speed buff, Swirling, Soul Reaper, and if you need to, Scythe Training, Violation. And then the pack should be clear, and you just go into your movement chain to the next pack. So at full speed, it looks something like this. And then if you absolutely need it for cleanup, just iframe into block and use your Vile Plan. Obviously, when you have time and space, you could throw in your bombs, Bloody Calamity, Imminent Doom, but for the most part, you're just going to stick to this cookie cutter setup and clear everything and move on. PvP combos. For the most part, this is just going to be real basic how to get your highest damage output out in 1v1s. Group fights, obviously, you'll approach differently. You're not really going to be comboing someone unless you're off to the side and you've caught a straggler. I just want to demonstrate a bit of how I approach 1v1s after a catch because your damage is much more streamlined and you're less reliant on trying to throw out all of your skills in half a second. Now, clearly, there's always going to be room to be flashy on Sorc. When I'm 1v1ing, I don't typically go for the flashy plays unless it's like one of my friends or someone I know, because I'd rather just confirm the kill. That's just my play style. There's some really neat stuff you can do, and I'm probably going to do some sort of like PvP boot camp for some of the people in my stream that have asked to practice and work with me to try and get a bit better at approaching fights on Sorc. But this demo is really just going to be, okay, with the resistance change, you can KD a lot more reliably. What's the best way to confirm your kill in a 1v1 scenario while it's utilizing your cooldowns and the new hard-hitting skills we get in Awakening? My friend is on his way, and I'm just going to demonstrate some real quick combos and setups that I use based on the adjustments we've gotten to our skills. So the initial approach is the same as it's always been. You get your first CC and you follow up off of that. So you go for your Stinger. I like to throw an Absolute Darkness in there for debuff. And if you go for a KD, I like the Soul Harvest pre-buff because it's got the down smash. And then Grim swirling. And for the most part, they're dead. I'm going to take off a bit of AP here so I can kind of demo a little bit more of the functionality of the combo. So I like to go for my initial catch, and then if I go for a KD, I'll go Grim, Soul for the down smash, swirling as well. And you just get a lot of down smashes in there. And for the most part, against any target that you have, they're going to die in that setup, even with lower AP. So my go-to in 1v1s after I've gotten a catch really is Soul Harvest for your self buff, Grim for the knockdown, and then Swirling, Soul Reaper, Toss of Blades, and then clean up and pre-awakening if you need it. But ultimately, unless you're fighting a really tanky like hardcap player, you're not going to need more than your Grim, your Swirling, and your Soul Harvest. So if I Grim here, Soul Harvest, Swirling, Soul Reaper, and if you absolutely need it, you could toss out a cheeky little Vial plan. Because Vial plan actually kind of hits like a truck now. So as long as you get that initial catch, whatever it may be, follow up into a KD. I typically like to follow up into Grim. But if you do Grim straight into Soul Harvest has a float on it. So if they do resist your KD, you still get the float. And then you just do your Swirling flow. You can toss a Blaze if you need to, clean up. So it's really streamlined and straightforward. Obviously, as you spend more time, you can get a bit flashier. But for me, especially in the situations I find myself in, whether it's grinding on Arsha or in PvP against Black Rose or Cho, I feel like straight to the point is better. Just get your damage out, finish your opponent, move on. So all in all, with the CC changes, PvP just feels really, really good on Sorc. You've got an insane amount of protected damage now. You still have all the versatility and mobility of your iframes that you used to have. But with more protected damage. There's really not much you can complain about. I have a feeling that we're going to get some tweaks, some adjustments, but I'm hoping some of the more egregious classes kind of help us fly under the radar, at least for a little while. So, all in all, things feel really good, look really good. There's almost no reason to complain about much of anything. We've got the full package. We don't even need a grab. especially with the resistance change and now with the block break. It feels really good all the way around. So the basic breakdown of the PvP combo is initial catch, follow up CC, soul harvest, swirling, soul reaper, and then whatever cleanup you may need. Now let's take a look at movement. Sorc has gotten a lot faster. Your gap close is better, as well as more protected, with the new wings skill that used to be rushing crow. However, you can also still utilize your pre-awakening rushing crow as well. So if you chain your movement together, you can cover a lot of ground and still maintain a good majority of your stamina. So the way I like to start a movement chain, whether it's pack-to-pack movement or chasing somebody that's trying to run away, is your typical stinger into your forward guard. So ultimately, the movement chain combo is going to look something like this, and I'll go over a bit more in detail what the actual movements are when we get to that point. But as you can see, you can seriously just chain your movement over and over again and until you get CC'd. So your movement is actually really great. There's next to no downside in terms of moving, at least in a semi-uncongested area. Obviously, if there are people throwing abilities, you'll have to adjust your movement accordingly. Stick to things like Shadow Leap, Rushing Crow. You're engulfing. If you have a bit of space, utilize your forward guard after Stinger, and just keep going. So the main movement chain that I use is Stinger into your forward guard, and then depending on your cooldowns, you'll use Wings, Shadow Leap, Stinger again, Rushing and Pre-Awakening into Wings, Shadow Leap. You can use your Engulfing because it's a super armor, so it's nice to throw in there. And then you utilize your forward WW evasion mouse hotkey in between to just keep yourself moving. But as long as you cycle the skills based on their cooldowns, you'll be able to just continue moving linearly almost as long as you want. There's really no drawback because you can chain the skills that allow you to regen stamina in between the ones that take your stamina, i.e. your Night Crow. I'll just demonstrate one more time. Like, you could just quite literally keep your stamina up almost the entirety of the time until you start chaining a metric fuck ton of iframes in between them. But by that point, you should be able to get wherever you want to go. If you're in PvE, you'll switch to your combo, you'll clear mobs, and you'll get your stamina back as well anyway. Alright guys, I just wanted to take a second and show you my add-ons. These are still kind of in the works. I've found kind of like the core of what I like to use, but there are still some places where I'm not sure if I'm utilizing my add-on slots, like my last one, effectively, like the 5th and 6th slot. So like for my PvE / open world, this is what I'm rocking right now. Bloody Calamity, since it's on a lower cooldown, you can get that tier 3 add-on more often, but this is probably the one that I'm going to switch out and toy around with a bit more just because the cooldown is so long, and when you're trying to grind, you really want to just keep your add-ons up as much as possible. But we have our, your typical crit, cast speed, that's your main focus. And then I've got minus DP on Grim because of the AoE on it, but I might put it on Swirling. It's just where I utilize Grim in my combo, it seems more effective than Swirling because I use Swirling towards the end of my PvE rotation just because of how I also combo in PvP. I like to keep things similar, so I have less of a chance of messing it up in PvP because of the muscle memory. The back attack damage here was kind of just one of those things that I had because Slow Reaper's at the end and then I clean up with Violation. It's probably not the most effective. I'm going to look at that some more as I grind some more. But this is the basic open world setup that I have because it's pretty effective all the way around. And I like to grind on Arsha, especially on Sorc. And my PvP add-ons right now, this is what I'm working with. If we can get through the book animation. So I have a slow and crit rate on Bloody because you can just drop a Bloody on your target in between iframes with little to no risk. You've got the same crit cast speed here, but Soul Harvest, this right here, I have really liked having the DP and evasion shred on Soul Harvest because of where I utilize it in combos in 1v1s. It just feels so nice because you drop a Soul Harvest and you just crank out your damage after a KD and it feels really, really good. Grim, this DP add-on for me is for group fights because more often than not you're going to hit at least one person in a group fight with Grim, so it just gives you that little bit of extra survivability. Swirling, I have a slow on it because it's 360 degrees, so if you're dropping that in a group of people, all you have to do is tap it and then cancel out, and you've gotten your self buff and you've gotten a slow off. Same with Soul Reaper, like if you catch someone with Grim, flow into Soul, and they're a tanky target, they'll at least have a slow on them. And the big thing for PvP that I've found right now is keeping up your cast speed add-ons as well as your Soul Reaper. Not Soul Reaper, Soul Harvest cast speed, self buff. You fly around like a madman, and it's pretty cool. Overall, I feel like Awakening Sorc is in a really good spot because after the reworks, everything we were already good at just got better, and we have much more quality of life in terms of maintaining things like our self buff. You know, our DP passive is now on Dark Trade, or not passive, but our DP skill is on Dark Trade. You've got Shift Q as maintainable self buff. Your Q buff gets refreshed now by charging Grim, and you're not burning your shards when you shadow leap if you're not shadow leaping off hotbar. So the main approach, at least for PvP, is the same as it's always been. You utilize your pre-awakening to try and fish for catches because you have your on-demand iframes. And now you just use your SA damage in awakening to clean up kills. There's not really much to complain about. As long as you have the proper mindset and the proper approach to whatever fight you're taking, I feel like you're at an advantage almost everywhere just because of how reliable your iframes are compared to every other class in the game. Certain Q block classes can still be annoying, but with the resistance change, you can much more reliably KD combo them. And with that being said, obviously, KD combo, you can spit out more damage, and spitting out more damage means you're more likely to secure the kill. If you have any questions about anything that I didn't cover in this video, it was really just a recap. I've had about 60 hours on Awakening Sorc since the reboots dropped here in NA, and I'm still learning and getting a feel for things. Add-ons are still in a place where I'm testing them. I've shown you guys what my current add-ons are and some of the like flex slots where I'm still trying to decide what feels best. But overall, you've got a ton to work with now. And if you dedicate the time to learning and appropriately practicing and getting familiar with the class, you're going to have a good time. The skill floor or barrier to entry, I feel, has gotten much more appealing to new players. But that level of finesse that advanced Sorcs have is still there. You could still be flashy. You could still do cool things. You could still frag out in group settings. It's the full package. It really is. And there's not much I can complain about. I say the thing I miss most is block on hotbar. But now you've got so much other protected utility that it's not as big of a factor as it used to be. You can position yourself a lot better, and overall the class feels great. If there's anything I missed, like I said, you can put it in the comments, or you can come by my stream. The link will be in the description as well. The majority of the time that I'm playing BDO, I'm streaming, unless I'm doing something like a video or a really important node war, and I want the most performance I can have. But all in all, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out and taking a look at what I have to say. I'm gonna bring updates as I find new stuff that I like while it's playing the class a little bit longer. And we're just gonna go from there. The BDO community has been absolutely incredible to me, and I appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next stream. Peace.